Good morning, classmates and Duke Weng. I'm Zenaida S. Canyosa of Manolo Fortich National High School, Division of Bukidnon. I will report to you the topic on the components of special education. There are 6 components of special education, namely child find, assessment, placement, accommodations and curricular modifications, parental involvement, and importance of inclusive education in the classroom. The first component is the child find. This is locating where these children are through the family mapping survey, advocacy campaigns, and networking with local health workers. The children with special needs who are not in school shall be listed. These children shall be visited by special education or Sped teachers, and parents should be convinced to enroll their children in Sped centers or schools nearest their home. Child find is a district responsibility that is a component of the individuals. Special needs that require schools to identify, locate, and evaluate them regardless of the severity of their disabilities. The next component is the assessment. It involves collecting information about students for the purpose of making decisions. It is a process used to determine a child's specific learning strengths and needs, to determine whether or not a child is eligible for special education services. To understand better the second component, there are 3 important things to be discussed. These are assessment purposes, methods of assessment, and assessment principles. Assessment purposes. The result of an assessment is used to decide on a child's educational placement and to plan instructional programs for a child that is identified to have additional needs. Methods of assessment. This talks about the ways of assessing a child. You will work with many professionals from different fields, which is called multidisciplinary team. It includes the Sped teacher, occupational therapist, and this also involves the parent of the learner with disability. Observation, interview, and test are the methods used in assessing the child. Assessment principles. These are guidelines to follow in conducting assessment practices. Assessment practices should be anchored on principles as provided by the Division of Early Childhood of the Council for Exceptional Students. These are the recommendations provided by the DECCES. Children and family-centered practices, a team-based approach, application of individualized and appropriate process, and use genuine and meaningful communication that adhere to ethical and legal practices. At this time, we will have the component number 3, which is placement. Placement is placing a child to a particular classroom where he or she can be taught, including in general education classroom. It is also the amount of time a child spends in each school day in a classroom. Educational setting. There are some common placement in which students might get specific services. Teams of trained teachers and aides are all in all types of placements. The first educational setting is the mainstream, often referred to as general education, where students in this setting may receive direct instruction. A helping teacher or a non-proportion of students and teachers involved for accommodations in lessons. The second educational setting is the resource. This setting is for students who receive special education services and need intensive help to keep up with grade level work. In this setting, the support is based on the learner's individual needs. Self-contained programs. Placement in a self-contained program has to be based on a student's unique needs, not on the disability alone. The fourth component is the accommodation and curricular modifications. Students with disabilities and additional needs who are studying in an inclusive general education classroom may need accommodation in the form of instructional support and other supplementary services. Others who need more intensive support are provided with curricular modifications. This graphical presentation shows the difference between accommodations and modifications. Accommodations do not fundamentally alter or lower expectations or standards in instructional level, content, or performance criteria, while modifications do fundamentally alter or lower expectations or standards in instructional level, content, or performance criteria. In accommodation, changes are made in order to provide equal access to learning and equal opportunity to demonstrate what is known, while in modifications, changes are made to provide student meaningful and productive learning experiences based on individual needs and abilities. In accommodations, grading is same, while in modification, grading is different. Therefore, accommodations are supports provided to students who help in full access to class content and instructions, while in modifications, individualized goals are developed. The fifth component is the parental involvement. Parent and guardian participation in the special education decision-making process is vitally important. The most important thing parents of disabled kids can do is to take an active role as a member of the Individual Education Program or IEP team that determines a student's path. The last component of the special education is the importance of the inclusive education in the classroom. This is very important in order to fulfill constitutional responsibility for achieving universalization of education, development of healthy citizenship, for social equality, and self-reliance. That's my report on the 6 components of special education, and these components should be followed and applied in order to have effective and quality education for students with disabilities and special needs. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.